Sonic the Hedgehog built his multi-million-dollar empire on one devious lie. A lie that has been fed to every single Sonic fan for decades, and it's been hiding in plain sight the whole time. Let me tell you the story of how I reached this conclusion. I've never been able to get into Sonic the Hedgehog, so I decided it was time to change that by playing through the first game. I had my good friend Adam hop into a Discord call to accompany me through my journey, and we played through the entire game in one sitting. Adam is something of a Sonic fanatic, so he was able to provide me with some wisdom and guidance throughout my adventure, though I'd be lying if I said we kept our conversations entirely focused on the matter at hand.
Wario is not a religion.
That's a matter of opinion, my friend. By the way, Adam has a fantastic YouTube channel, which you should definitely go check out. It's linked in the description down below. Upon finishing my adventure, I walked away with the overwhelming feeling that this game was fine. It was nothing more than fine. Naturally, I wondered why I felt this way. After playing such an iconic game that kickstarted one of the biggest franchises in gaming, I'd expect to be feeling a bit more, well, anything. So I did what I do best, and I started analysing this game's mechanics. On the face of it, Sonic the Hedgehog is a pretty run-of-the-mill platformer. You can run, jump, and land on enemies to defeat them. The primary things that set Sonic apart from the likes of Mario and Kirby at the time was his ability to curl up into a ball while running to defeat enemies in his path, and the momentum side of the gameplay. The game is split up into zones, effectively worlds, and every zone has 3 acts, effectively levels, each having a distinct number of routes throughout that the player can take to the end. While these paths are separate, you can easily make your way from one to another in order to go secret hunting, or more accurately, when you've fallen from one path and decided to accept your fate. The ball curling, momentum, and alternate paths are the 3 core mechanics that contribute to this game's very identity. Speed. You see, building up momentum when going down a ramp, for example, causes Sonic to gain an incredible amount of speed, and this concept is used all over the place throughout this game's level design. There are so many ramps and tunnels and loop-de-loops scattered throughout this world to give the player ample opportunity to build up that momentum and let it rip, tearing through the levels at breakneck speeds. It's exhilarating. The ability to curl up into a ball to defeat enemies aids in this tremendously, as if you're able to successfully defeat a foe in this way, your momentum is not interrupted and you get to carry on as you were. This leads to an immaculate gameplay flow that feels really rewarding. Because of the fast pace of the game, it's not always easy to enter ball mode fast enough to knock down an enemy, so when you do manage it, it feels great. Some of the paths in the levels lend themselves better to this speed, and grant more opportunities for it. So there's also an element of figuring out which path is right for you, or even better, weaving between paths and trying to keep up that speed for as long as possible. It's an insanely well thought out system that really rewards the player. When you're going fast, this game is incredibly fun, but therein lies the problem. Upon uncovering the genius of this gameplay loop, I realized its biggest flaw. The game is so fun when you're going fast, but it's only fun when you're going fast. To demonstrate this, let's look at 2 of the game's most prolific zones, Green Hill Zone and Labyrinth Zone. Not only does Green Hill Zone offer a lot of the core set pieces that grant a lot of speed and momentum, it sets them up in such a way that they flow into one another. Take Act 1 for example, where you have a set of ramps that leads into a loop-de-loop, which then leads into a tunnel, which leads into a ramp with upward trajectory that sends you flying even further through the level. Each of these things lead so naturally into one another, and with the way the momentum carries over between each of them, the sequence is incredibly satisfying to pull off. I found less examples of this in Acts 2 and 3, but they each offered a lot of more open-ended areas where, sure, there are enemies and a couple of obstacles, but you still had the freedom to tackle them how you see fit. Do you methodically take out the enemies and precisely maneuver your way around the obstacles, or do you maybe use some previously gathered momentum to rip through this section like it's nothing? The choice is yours. Compare this then to Labyrinth Zone, Sonic the Hedgehog's water level. By the very nature nature of this zone's setting, the gameplay here is very slow and floaty, and from a level design perspective, there are very few set pieces that lend themselves to any sort of speed or momentum. The closest things are these little jet stream pockets, but they merely act as transitions between areas in each zone, so they hardly count. On top of this, a lot of the set pieces in this zone are very reaction and or timing based. Take these swinging spikes for example. They rely entirely on the timing of your jumps to not get hit, but the timing of your jumps is naturally offset due to the floatiness that the submerged setting introduces. Or what about these little bastards who jump out of the ground all throughout the level? Avoiding them comes entirely down to your reaction time, which is all well and good in theory, but the execution is a lot more difficult when underwater. Both of these things in any other level would be fine, and honestly, par for the course. But here, they feel directly at odds with the rest of the level's design. Labyrinth Zone forces you to take things slow and be methodical, but still has a lot of gameplay elements that require fast thinking and execution. It's such a jarring juxtaposition that honestly makes this level really frustrating to play. The worst offender though, in my opinion, it's Marble Zone, the second zone of the game. Most of your time in this zone is spent waiting for platforms to slowly traverse over lava, waiting for certain obstacles to move or change states, waiting for Sonic to push blocks agonizingly slowly in order to activate switches. It's a nightmare. This level actively discourages you from going fast, which, as we've already established, is the most fun thing to do in this game. But really, what makes that so bad? Running fast is one of the most fun things to do in Super Mario World, but that doesn't make the water levels painful to endure, and it doesn't even make me any less willing to be slow and methodical when needs must. So why is it so hard to stomach in Sonic the Hedgehog? And this is when it hit me. This game's curse, what's holding it back from being as great as it could be, is not the level design. It's not the tedium of Labyrinth Zone or Marble Zone. No, it's the three words that made people so interested in this game to begin with. Gotta go fast. Now, to be clear, gotta go fast was never actually used to market Sonic 1. As far as I'm aware, the phrase was introduced in the opening theme to the Sonic X anime in 2003, which, by the way, is an absolute bop, but I'll always prefer the European version. It gets me feeling rambunctious. Anyway, that specific phrase may not have been used to promote Sonic 1, but every single ad for the game drew specific attention to the character's speed. Sonic is better than Mario because he goes fast. Going fast is so cool, and going slow? Lame. It was absolutely all over this game's marketing. So why then does the game not let you do it all that often? The game lures you in so perfectly with Green Hill Zone too, only for you to get slapped in the face by Marble Zone. You've been told so many times that the point of this game is to go fast, and it's so much fun to go fast, and you're a loser freak if you don't go fast. Which makes it so frustrating when the game does not allow you to go fast. In realizing this, I started to wonder why the game was designed in this way. Surely I'm missing something here. And something Adam said really made me realize the true issue with this game's marketing.
So that's kind of where the philosophy came from, which is level design that once you know what you're doing, you can blitz through it. You get this very kinetic sort of momentum feeling.
The point of Sonic's entire design is not simply to go fast. It's to get good enough at these levels and refine your route and strategy well enough to be able to go fast. Going fast was not intended as the primary gameplay method. It was intended as a reward for being good enough at the game. Looking at the game through this lens, it's a lot easier to stomach some of its slower moments. Sure, Marble Zone and Labyrinth Zone are tedious, but once you've played through them a few times and got an optimized strategy down for them, in theory, you should be rewarded with the ability to get through them much faster than when you first played them. The game was designed this way because creator Yuji Naka loved replaying the original Super Mario Bros. And seeing how quickly he could make it through the game's levels. And when you look at the game design from that perspective, it's honestly kind of perfect. But the game's marketing tricked millions back in the 90s into believing that Sonic's speed is not something that they should have to work for, but rather something they should just expect. And when you play the game with that mindset, Sonic 1 is a deeply frustrating experience. This false advertising sets up expectations that the game will not meet, at least not on that initial playthrough. And for many, myself included, it ultimately ended up ruining the experience of the game. Many people bought Sonic 1 because of the marketing's focus on speed, and they were met with a game that did not meet their expectations for more than 3 levels. But by then, it was too late. Sonic's meteoric rise to fame was already unstoppable. The multi-million-dollar lie this game was sold under, well, it worked, and the character has been chasing that lie ever since. False advertising is not always guaranteed to ruin a game, but some mistakes are. To make sure you avoid the biggest mistake that ruins games, watch my last video on Animal Crossing Wild World.